So my name is Julian from Excella. We're a large SharePoint company, and we deal specifically in three main areas, of one of which you're here today to see about governance. So what is governance? So many people ask this question, and there really is no defined answer for what governance is. Different companies will have different governance rules, policies, and security settings. So there's many ways to manage governance. The word governance derives from the Greek verb, I'm not going to try and pronounce that, which means to steer. Okay? It was first used by Plato in the metaphorical sense. So an easy way to understand that, imagine your SharePoint environment is a large oil tanker, and it's steaming through, there's no steering wheel. Who knows what's going to happen to it? It could go anywhere. It's very difficult to understand. So you need something that can steer it. So how we can help you with governance. Because it's not simply a checklist, as I was saying. So we have a product which we call Control Point. Now, it's aimed specifically at governance and security within SharePoint. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to run you through the product. I'm going to give you a general overview of how we can benefit you and how we can help you control that governance and security. And then obviously, if you want to see more, please come and see us at our stand today or over the next few days, and we can organise a more in-depth look at Control Point and any of our other products, DaVinci and File Loader, which will support you in migration and moving file shares into SharePoint. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go to Control Point. Okay, so this is our product Control Point. Change the view there. So using Control Point, you're going to be able to analyze and review your environment, to look at users, groups, things like that, see what's actually going on. And then be able to report on things like permissions, get an idea of who has access, where they have access, and obviously how. Are they getting access via groups directly? Do people have more permissions than they should? Then they're delegating people to do things that they shouldn't be able to. Become very quick that you can lose control of SharePoint. It doesn't take very long at all. So you can see with Control Point, I'm able to access my farm really simply here. I have my farm hierarchy on the left there with the web applications beneath it via the globe icons. And then I can expand into my web applications and view the site collections beneath the web applications. So I've instantly got a nice overview of my environment already. If you're using this on a day-to-day basis, you can see here from the numbers, it's referring to the containment regarding the site collections and expanding into the sites there and the lists. The asterisks is referring to the permission inheritance, along with the padlock item there we can see on the site. So instantly you've got a nice review of what's happening inside SharePoint. But to physically look in specific areas, you're going to need to actually review those containments. So a site, for example. When I right-click, I receive the drop-down menu within Control Point, which is where I'm going to be able to go through the various tabs that you can see here and actually start delving into specific environments, reporting on activity, finding inactive users, things like that. So you can see here the various reports that I can now delve into inside, in this instance, the site. Wherever you select is where you're going to be able to search. And we offer a large scale. You can be very granular, or you can be very broad. Go ahead and do a search on the whole farm with Control Point. Get a review of everyone that's getting access everywhere. It is that powerful, and it is that simple. So the functions inside the Activity tab here, I'm able to review the most and least activity on a site collection all the way down to a list item, finding who's accessing what, how often is it being used. So this is going to help you get a good idea of just simply maybe the return on investment of your SharePoint environment, Is it being used? If it's not being used, why is that? Is it because your governance is not in a position that allows users to really access SharePoint safely? Reviewing things like inactive users. Do you have someone that is no longer in your environment but still has access? They may have left the company. They could still access your SharePoint environment, finding them and dealing with them as you go through. We can be very granular and actually review the activity by specific users. So you could look at someone in your environment, see what they've been doing, what documents they've been accessing, have they been viewing them, have they been updating them, checking them in, etc. So you can go down, very low down. You could do this from the farm and continuously expand in, going through. And then the reports you get inside Control Point are like a PDF. They're not They're not static. We're able to continuously delve in and get the information we require. You can do the same with a document. Look at everyone that has reviewed a specific document. You may have secure documents in somewhere like your HR section maybe, or finance. There are things inside your SharePoint you don't want everyone to see. You're going to be able to find that information out very quickly. Some unique features that we offer with Control Point are the ability to report and prevent. So you're able to be proactive and reactive. Now, one of the ways to be reactive is to create something called a Control Point alert, excuse me. My audits and alert tabs, I can go ahead and now create a Control Point alert within this site collection. So what I can do is pick a few specific areas. I'll run through a few of those examples for you now. So I can choose to see if a site has been added or deleted. Now, someone's going to need some very good permission levels to do that. So if you're seeing some names come up of people doing that in your emails, you're going to have to wonder why. Some more granular events inside the Events tab. I'll scroll down slowly so you can see a few of these. Things like a document being checked in and out. If you're doing that in a very high-risk environment in your SharePoint, it's nice to know who is specifically doing that, who's getting access to those documents. Deletion events. Modifying permissions. Has the permission inheritance been broken? And you can just simply choose these very easily with Control Point. It's incredibly easy to navigate through, drag and drop, and I'm now going to be alerted on these events. So do I want to be alerted by everyone, a specific user? And then the scope that I'm going to be alerted on for these. So I'm going to be able to review this at a list level or a document level or everything in this site collection in this instance. And one of the key features of Control Point is the ability to schedule. You can manage SharePoint on a larger scale than a day-to-day basis. You're able to review your governance, review your security, review your activity, and plan in advance. You could go ahead and set this up to run for a month or 6 months or as long as you require. And then choose how often you're going to be alerted for on the events we've just selected. So you could know within the hour if someone has checked out a specific document, or run it on a day-to-day basis, weekly basis, depending on how large the report is. If you're running this on a low level in a large environment, you're probably going to get a quite full inbox on some people's SharePoint environment, I'm sure, today. So that's a way of being reactive. Sorry, I see a question there.
First one would be the data that we analyze. How long?
So what Control Point does is we cache the data of your SharePoint environment. Okay, so we're able to report on that for as long as you've had Control Point on. I can go ahead and run a report for the last year if I wanted to. I can go back further than that for how long I've had it on there. Yeah. It stores around 2 kilobytes per site per day, so nothing too major at all. We do allow the option to purge the data as well to a different server, should you worry about server space, but it's not something you're going to find that impacts you. Control Point is going to allow you to get to a point where you're going to refine your SharePoint environment so well that the minimal impact of that storage space will be negated by the storage you're able to clean up through those inactive users and sites that aren't being used, things like that. Yeah, sure. Yep. You choose how often you want this to run. So if I'm running this hourly, all the events I just picked then, I'm going to see it every hour in my email inbox. And you're able to distribute this as well to other people, even add it to a library list if you want to access it that way. Yes, it's using a scheduled job that you set up with Control Point. Okay, so now we've been reactive. There's a way of being proactive. So unique to Control Point is a Control Point policy. So rather than waiting for someone to do something they shouldn't and discovering it, go ahead and prevent it. So the most secure way you can possibly be in your SharePoint environment is just to stop someone from doing something they shouldn't. So some of the policies we were able to create with Control Point. We can prevent a subsite from being created. We can prevent a subsite from being deleted. Something more granular around the list creation and deletion level. Even controlling the file upload size. Now, SharePoint's very broad. This would come into play if you're maybe looking at migrating at some point soon. Start controlling what people are uploading, limit the size. Okay, it's going to help with your security on that front because you've got one less thing to worry about before you go ahead and move. So various ways you can start applying these policies now. So if I was to prevent someone from creating a site, I would need to pick who it applies to. So would I restrict everyone in this site collection from creating a site? I can if I want to. I can be a little bit more selective and choose specific users and AD groups, or exclude them. Even override permission levels with control points. So just because someone has full control does not mean, in this instance, they're going to be able to create a site. So I've got a real granular hold now on this site collection. And then again, choose who's going to be notified. So most likely putting an admin name in there because they're the one controlling this. But you can actually send an email to the person that has tried to go against the policy violator. So they're going to receive a custom message which is going to be defined by your governance board or security team, whoever controls that instance. And maybe they're going to say contact help desk or contact admin, whatever you need to put in there. Now, you're able to give control point to anyone you require access to, so help desk or someone like that, a power user maybe. Now, obviously, you're going to go against your governance if you're giving someone lower down at the full version of control point. They're going to get too much access. So trim the product down. We're able to really restrict the way users can access control point. You could maybe just give them one of those tabs you saw, the activity or storage tab. Only allow them read writes, so they can't make any physical changes. They're just able to review them. Or just simply send the information to an admin and allow them the standard SharePoint control. Completely up to you on the way you operate control point. We try and give you as much as a diverse use as we can. We understand different people, use it in different ways. So the configuration management now. So you're going to be able to become very refined in the way you control your site collections, your site and your lists. So it's using the same properties that exist inside SharePoint, but we allow you to do it on a large scale. So for instance, uploading a folder instead of a list. Very common that a lot of people do that. It's easy to upload bulk data that way. But then it becomes difficult for you to manage, you to secure. Now, if you had a large amount of sites going into each list item to prevent that ability to upload would take a long time. You're going to have to go into every single site, as I'm sure you're aware, do it manually. With control point, from a site collection or even a web app level, if I go into my advanced settings here, I'm going to go ahead and restrict that function. So no longer on this large scale is anyone in this entire site collection or web app from wherever I run this from going to do that. So huge time-saving abilities if you even take away just from how secure you're able to become on that level. And then moving up through to this site properties. So again, taking away the properties from SharePoint. You're able to control the theme, the navigation settings. So your users are going to find it easier to access SharePoint every day because it stays the same. And you can create a reoccurring policy with these as well. So someone's gone in that's an admin level. They've seen that you've removed that folder ability for uploading. They've quickly reapplied it. Because control point has a reoccurring policy set up, it's going to run without you even having to worry about it and override the settings they just changed. So you could run this for the next year, spend an hour or two doing this, or a day, depending on how refined your organization is, and you're now going to not have to worry about it. And then again, moving up to the site collection level for the properties within the site collection. So I'm able to control the administrators, the templates, the quota template, excuse me. So you can see on a broad scale the power we're able to get if you even take away from the time-saving functionalities. The content management. So control point will allow you to move content around the hierarchy, up and down, and you can even move it across farms. If you had 2, 3, 4 SharePoint farms, all on the same environment, be it 2007 or 2010, you're going to be able to move content between them. And you're going to be able to retain permissions, very important for governance. You're going to be able to retain version history for documents. And you're going to keep the metadata that you've set up in those sites or those list items. So depending on where you select, you'll see the different choices. I obviously have here at a site collection level the ability to copy and move sites, even move to another database. And then drilling down, you'll see here that we now have the option in my content tab to move and copy list and list items. And you can bulk manage this as well. So an example of the way people will operate this, they will install control point on 2 farms. One would be a test farm. They would create a site or lists or list items. They would then use control point to distribute that to hundreds or just tens maybe of different sites, and they're moving that over. And because they've set the permissions up to a level that adheres to their governance and security, it's going to immediately apply in their live environment. So there's going to be no management afterwards on a huge scale. You're able to operate, copy, and move. And you can also schedule, the same with everything in control point. So you're not going to want to do that in the middle of the day. You're going to want to do that probably in the evening or maybe on a weekend. Schedule control point to do it. It's going to email you. You'll know it's successful. You didn't have to stay until 9 o'clock that night. Now some of the storage reporting. So getting an idea of what's been going on and how much data has been correlated inside your SharePoint environment, be it on a most and least level, the same with the activity, looking at sites that have the most storage or list items that are taking up the most storage, or least even, getting a good idea then of your environment on a large level. Running analysis on specific site collections and sites to get an idea of also, again, what's taking up the most environment. Now, because of the power of control point, we're able to run reports on a very high level, getting information going back a large amount of time. So as the person said then, how far can you go back? And as long as you've had control point, I could probably go back as far as a year if I want to. Choose what statistics you include, and you're going to get an idea using trend analysis reporting of how your environment has changed, and therefore able to predict how it's going to change. So, is it grown exponentially in the last year because you've got a lot more users in, and therefore what are those users doing? How is this storage being created? Are they uploading videos of their family in their My Sites or in somewhere random that they shouldn't be because they've got too many permissions? So it's good to know why your storage is increasing. You can run a report that will allow you to review the duplicate files. So this will search on a named basis, and it will give you the URL and size of those files, so you're able to realize which ones shouldn't be in there. I can give you a real-world example of a customer that had purchased control point. They were a finance company. They asked us to give them some help after purchasing control point, which we were obviously more than happy to do. We ran a storage report on a site and found they had 60 gigabytes of data with only 10 list items, and we were a bit confused as to how that was possible. So using the duplicate files report, I was able to realize they had version history turned on some large Excel files, and they didn't really need all of that version history. We were able to clean that up, knock them down from 60 to 5 gigabytes, a huge decrease in size there on just one site using that report. And then able to look at things like the recycle bins, okay? Storage by file type. So reviewing in maybe a site collection, what sort of files are taking up your environment size? So is it a PDF? Is it a docx file? So control point is clear and easy to see. You can see here nice simple pie charts. I've got a breakdown there. My storage by file size, I can see PDFs are clearly the largest consumer of size, as it were. Storage by file count, so PDF are also one of the largest in there. And then a breakdown of specifically what is in my environment in the site collection. So I've instantly got a very quick report there. You can see from the cache data how fast that was. And I can see all the documents that are taking up the size. So onto the final and most important part today would be the Users and Security tab inside Control Point. So this is the most specific area for looking at your governance and security. It's how you're going to realize where people are getting access and how. What permissions do they have? Reviewing it at a specific user level. If you want to be that granular, maybe on an entire farm, you can do that with Control Point. Or running it on a site level, seeing everyone that gets access and how. So looking at a site level, we can review specific users if we want, or multiple users and groups, depending on how you use your environment. And then refine the permission level. So maybe you just want to know those people have got full control. They're the ones that are going to be doing the most to your SharePoint environment. If you don't know who they are, what are they doing? You can see there I have the used cache data checkbox on, which refers to, obviously, the earlier comment regarding the data we cache. If I now expand into my site, I'm able to review the various users and groups that have access to this site. And more importantly, the access they have. Do they have admin, design, even custom permissions in the other column there? And to get a bit more information on, say, a specific user or group, if I expand, I'm able to see my user James Joyce. I can see he has direct access to Alpha Snack Foods. I can see the SharePoint groups and AD groups that he is a member of. There's the AD group. I can now find out how that AD group gets more access. So you're constantly able to delve in and refine exactly what you're reporting on. The green select button, you can see, will allow you to make a specific change to this site. This is very useful if you're doing a lot of bulk reporting. You don't want to necessarily go back through the hierarchy. You found some information out, you want to deal with it. Maybe you found a user that has too many permissions. Maybe he's got full control or admin when he should not have that. So use the green select button. You're able to make a change to, in this instance, Alpha Snack Foods. You'll see at the top, I have the tabs there, which are all the same as you would get on the left-hand side when we right-click. So my user and security now, I'm going to change the permissions for a specific user that I just realized had too much control. So quickly and easily, I'm able to drop that down to, say, read writes, propagate it to unique items and lists. And then by simply choosing the user or using the SharePoint People Picker, because we operate on the SharePoint API, we are integrated with SharePoint, you're able to quickly select those users and groups you wish to change. Now, you have here the backup site permissions before operation. So again, you're going to be able to refine your security. So say you make a change today. A few days down the line, something's gone wrong, the permissions aren't as you thought they were. Restore the site permissions back to today. So constantly being secure. A very useful report that we offer with Control Point is called an Orphaned Domain Users Report. Now, I don't know if any of you are aware, but trying to find users that have been removed or disabled from Active Directory inside SharePoint is not a very fun job. It's incredibly time-consuming, and it's very difficult. With Control Point, we can easily look inside, again, a site collection or a site, and look for those users that have been removed and disabled from AD and then deal with them. So I have 3 users here. 1 user there has been disabled from Active Directory, 2 have been removed. I can get a little bit more information about those users. So I can see here my user Harold Potter. He gets access to Alpha Snack Foods. He has design, contribute, etc. I'm sure you remember from the previous screen. You can see here how it's very intuitive, Control Point. Now I can delete them all in one go or manage them individually. If I select a user, it will take me to Control Point's Delete User Permission screen, where we're able to delete the user entries from site collection of Harold. I can delete his SharePoint alerts in my sites. And I can also reassign his permissions to another user. So incredibly powerful, that one. Many people that see this product are used to seeing more like 100+ users that have been removed or disabled. Obviously, we just got 3 there for how difficult that is to manage. Now, this delete user permissions option, you could, if we remove ourselves from simply the AD report there, look at this on another level. You've got someone leaving the company. They've maybe handed their notice in. They're going to be going at the end of the month. You have a new user starting who's going to replace them. Rather than you going individually into each site and hoping you get to all the ones that this user was and that this user is going to access, Control Point's going to manage it on a higher level. I can change here from my site collection, actually expand up into the farm now. And I'm going to enforce this to run when that user leaves. So at the end of next month, when his time is up, at 5 p.m., Control Point's going to remove that user, replicate it to my user Mark, and it's going to email me the information because I've put my name in there. Now, you can replicate permissions without necessarily having to delete the user. So this is useful should you have someone join a new department, say. Or you simply create a template user with very refined security permissions that you wish to distribute, say, in your finance or HR department. Someone's joining that, rather than you looking again and hoping you get to the access of where they have. You're going to just simply replicate from someone you know adheres to your governance. So choose your model user. Choose the user that exists in the department, or you've simply created someone that doesn't necessarily exist, as I said, with specific permissions. And then replicate them using the SharePoint People Picker to add as many people as you wish. So simply select there, I get all the people with the M. I can control or shift click, add my users there. So now what's going to happen when I run this, they're going to get James's permissions, those 3 users there. They're going to retain their current permissions unless I choose this checkbox. Now I've deleted their current permissions. So if they've moved departments, I don't have to worry about them still having access to them when they don't working there. Control points remove them. So everything you do with control point, you're constantly being careful. You're always adhering to your governance. So some of the more managerial side here, as you've seen some of them as I've delved into them now. The ability to set, delete, and duplicate are incredibly powerful on a large level. I've been doing it slightly lower down. Running something from a farm level in control point on regarding permissions is something most people only dream of inside SharePoint. As a previous admin myself, I'm well aware of how difficult and time-consuming these tasks can be, and how hard it is to be accurate. You know, to have someone say to you, "Have you definitely removed this user?" I hope I've removed them. It's very difficult for me to know without going through all the hundreds, thousands of sites, depending on how large your environment is. Not with control point. You can do a definite yes. You can control groups very easily. Now, many people don't use groups inside SharePoint because they're worried about their security. They can become hard to manage. Very understandable. But groups are actually an easy way to manage SharePoint if you have something like control point. Things like adding users and changing permissions to group are very, very simple. No matter what you're doing with control point regarding groups, you'll always see this same screen, the group picker. So if you're adding permissions, adding users, deleting permissions, or deleting groups, you're able to delve into the various site collections and web applications of your environment to add the groups that you're going to be managing today. So you don't have to operate within the same environment here. You can see there, it's giving me the various sites. Once you've made your selection, the only part that will change is the parameters level. So here I'm changing the permissions for a group. So I've easily now managed that group from various web applications and site collections. Add 100 groups in there. Change their permissions for where they're getting access. Maybe you're going to go through to all your members groups and control and refine the permissions. Maybe your owners groups. Again, on a bulk level, you're able to quickly manage those. So that's a general look. I was going to say that's a general look at control point and some of the ways we can help you with your security and your governance. Now, to see a more in-depth example, please come see me at the stand or see one of my sales representatives, and we can look at booking a proper demonstration in for you, refine, round your requirements, and hopefully we can look at meeting those. I hope you saw enough of the product to understand how we're going to really, really help you in your governance and security, and a little bit as well with regards to the copy and move and reporting functionalities that we offer. Yes, do you have any questions? How can I help? Stand up. Yes, very much so.
Been delivering this kind of solution, well, not this solution, but SharePoint solution for the last 11 years.
Okay.
And in almost every organization, Active Directory is a challenging service.
Of course.
You can't influence it, you can make changes, but this kind of tool, when you have a large user base, try to do a lot kind of output.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it can corrupt site collections, databases, data. So, part updates can be fine-tuning the load of those updates.
So we operate on the SharePoint API. Okay, so we're operating inside, integrated with SharePoint. So if you have anything go wrong on the back end, it's going to unfortunately interrupt us. But you can refine the way that sites obviously operate and control and define what's going on in SharePoint. So limit the way users are accessing certain events and sites. So because you're using control point, you've really refined the site itself. You're able to copy and move to maybe your a different a farm, or your test farm. So you've got a backup of that site as well with its permissions, metadata, and version history in. So should something go wrong, bring it back in.
That's okay, but basically what I'm saying is we bet on other infrastructure parts, building
Okay.
When we grab the data, I'm not just referring to this kind of thing, I'm talking about real business kind of data that can get grabbed.
I see. Okay, sure.
And today the trend is either cloud or outsourced hosting of data
Mm-hmm.
for large organizations.
Mm-hmm.
So when we want to store data, that costs a lot of money if we don't get things properly back. So the question is, can we actually throttle the amount of backup rates in a certain way instead of causing damage for
It's not really, control point's not really looking at that. It's not going to really hit you there. I mean, I don't know, Gail, would you be able to?
I can't hear the question at all, so I'm the director of product management. So, you know what, it sounds like you have a really deep person.
Yes.
Issue. I think it's better to have a conversation.
Yeah, if you come see us and we can hopefully maybe run through some examples at the stand and yeah, maybe pick out some key points. Okay. Any other questions from anyone regarding the governance and security and how control point can help you? Everyone okay? Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming to View today, and please come see us at the stand for a little bit more in-depth look at control point and how we can really help you. Okay? Thank you very much. Have a nice day.